So first things first is we need to have some wood to start with. So this is just some 8/4 walnut. Backside hasn't even been planed yet. I've got some checking down at this side that I definitely don't want. And this is close to 2 inches. It's like just a 1/16 away from being 2 inches. So I am going to plane this down to 1.5 inches. First, I'm going to bandsaw it as it is and get my parts out of it, because I might have some other smaller components that I can get out of the same piece, but I'll want to maintain that 2-inch thick piece for that. So let's see. I've already drawn out one set of lines. I want to match those. So let's see. There it is. And I'm trying to get this flat spot as close to where the template starts as I can. And I'm not going to be doing any template routing. So basically, once I cut out the 2 blanks and get them planed to their final thicknesses, I'm going to clamp them together and use a hand plane to get them where the joinery points are exactly the same, so that it's not crooked. But that starts with tracing these guys out. And if the final shape deviates a little bit from chair to chair, that's okay. It's just more handwork character, but it should be pretty similar from chair to chair. So there's one. And then I'll unfortunately have to lose quite a bit here to fit the next one. Let's see. That does not help. And the back leg is the most important part to get pretty continuous grain, but what I've done with this is I've kind of had it back off slightly, and then I end up straightening it out toward the foot. So this foot piece should end up with fairly straight grain if you line up the joinery points with that straight grain. So the only part that has shorter grain is right here, and I've got stretchers that will help reinforce those points. So I think this is about as good as I can get. Now I'll use my offhand, kind of walk my pressure so that my template doesn't move while I'm tracing it. And be very careful to not move it. And then I move it. It happens. Okay, and I've got one part on here where this piece is intersecting almost with where I'm tracing this one out. And for woodworkers, I'm fairly strange, but I like these super thick pencils, 0.9 millimeters, especially on stuff like walnut. You can't see your joinery lines very well with 0.5 and stuff. And if I'm using something for joinery like dovetails or whatever, I'll use a knife and not a pencil. Instead of trying to make a pencil accurate, I just use one that's fat so that I don't break them all the time. I hate breaking pencil lead. This is pretty much flush on the bottom. Okay, so now I have 2 chair legs drawn out, and then I've got a little chunk here that's savable, and then the rest of this is pretty much waste because it's cracked anyway. So now I'll take this over to the bandsaw and saw them out. All right, so now we've got them roughly bandsawed into shape, and you can tell they're pretty similar, and they match the template pretty well. And we'll go back and draw on those joinery spots. This template's not very different from forward to back, but we'll go on and draw on where the joinery needs to be, and then make sure that that's flat and at roughly the right angle. But first I'm going to go through and throw these on the planer to get this thickness down to 1.5 inches from this nearly 2 inches, and then we can start working on cleaning up and making sure that they are identical, and then we'll work on joinery after that. Alright, so now that I've got these planes to 1.5 inches thick, and look nice, so I will clamp these together where they line up the best. Make sure these are facing the right way. I like to get clamps that won't be in the way too bad, so I'm going to do these guys from Harbor Freight. I'll probably have to take these off and reposition them occasionally. I actually trace out my joinery parts on one of these templates. So this area is the only area that I actually need flat on the whole thing. Truly flat, because that's where my domino is going to reference. So clamp these up. And the real work's going to happen in the vise, but these clamps are just here to help me keep them aligned as I spoke shape it. Set this down in my vise. Clamp it down fairly hard. And you don't need a big plane to do this, but what I'm going to do here is just draw across these parts. Mark it on the side so you can reference it again later, because you need to redraw your joinery lines every now and then. Scribble across. This side here is definitely higher than the other. It's going to be hard to see here, but here's where my joinery parts need to be, and this side is definitely higher than the other. I'm going to start by just kind of hogging that down a little bit. Starting to see that I'm touching the other side. So you can see I'm starting to get a nice flat spot here, and I'm touching this. So I'm gonna get my square again and redraw my joinery lines. I'm gonna get more methodical as I go along, so I'm try to start in the middle, spread out. Triangle so that I can reference it again. And this is where our leg stretcher will be. So now I'm going to change the angle of these legs where I can check it for square. Get my little machinist square. And I'm definitely still high over here, so I'm going to take it back down and work it back until these two parts are actually straight across. So work the left more than the right. And go back and check it again. And that's nearly perfect. I'm just going to stop there and call it good enough. And before I start shaping again, I'm going to go ahead and redraw my joinery lines for the last time, and hopefully these will stay. This will help me mark out where my dominoes go later. Back it out and take this clamp off and grab my spoke shave. Periodically wax my spoke shave up. I think the first part's the easiest, and then you get to these spots where it's really high right here and they take forever. So a lot of this feels really good, but then you get some spots where the bandsaw didn't do such a good job. And this is my rowing machine for the day, so work out my back a little bit. Sometimes it's easy to chamfer the sides over a little bit just to give yourself a little bit less surface area to work. A lot of this is actually going to get tapered off later on as well. But it's still nice to have it all perfect in the early stages. Close. I always get this side here and this side here, always left. Mind, this is a flat spoke shave too, and I really don't have a way of getting into these convex areas very easily, so it's slow work, but this is kind of a recurve, so it's hard for this flat spoke shave to get in there. One tiny spot and one little sliver here. The spot's gone, now I just need that sliver. Okay, so that's it. Those are matched on that side. Now I need to do the back and a whole other side. You can see these are now perfectly in plane as if they were template routed. So now I've got this piece completely shaved with the spoke shave until it's pretty much perfectly equal, as if you had done a template bit on it. And I still have my primary joinery marked out, and later on we're going to add some tapers to thin up the top and the bottom. But first we need to chop mortises, put dominoes in, and then we'll taper it off and smooth it out, and the legs will be done.